About 9 months ago, Mark Epstein talked to Don Lemon on his YouTube channel. And just to get a glimpse of his thinking about why his brother did not commit suicide, take a listen.
And then, like I said, you had Bill Barr making that statement about he saw the videotape and nobody went in or out of the tier, which convinced him it was a suicide. Well, with 14 other people, potentially 14 other people on the tier, that's a pretty ridiculous statement, because any one of those prisoners could have gotten into Jeff's cell if the doors were left unlocked, as I've been told they were, killed Jeff and gone back into their cell. So for Barr to say that, that was one of the things that first clued me in that this was a cover-up. What you also don't hear is that the two professional forensic pathologists, the city pathologist and Dr. Barden, who was there at the autopsy, came out of the autopsy room and said, this doesn't look like a suicide. It looks more like a homicide, like some kind of strangulation.
A judge releases an apparent suicide note, supposed to be written by Jeffrey Epstein, after his first apparent suicide attempt. Now, this is released by the judge after the New York Times requested it be made public, because the New York Times found mention of this note in the Department of Justice files. And the cellmate who evidently discovered this note spoke on a podcast this year about its existence. Evidently, the court had this note for 7 years. My name is Dina Doll with the MeidasTouch Network. Let's get into this. This, of course, also comes at the time that Howard Lutnick, the Commerce Secretary, just spoke behind closed doors to the House Oversight Committee, and we will get to his testimony or lack thereof in a minute. But first, to this note, as we know, whether or not Jeffrey Epstein killed himself is, of course, a big question mark. The question mark raised perhaps the loudest by his brother, Mark Epstein, who has contended for years that Jeffrey Epstein did not kill himself, but was murdered. So this suicide note, if written by him and talking about taking his own life, would be evidence as to whether or not Jeffrey Epstein ultimately killed himself. So this is how it came about and what it reveals or doesn't reveal. So Jeffrey Epstein apparently tried to kill himself before, according to authorities, he did a second time at the end of July. His cellmate was a former NYPD officer in jail, having been convicted for a quadruple murder. That was his cellmate, Nicholas Taglioni. He says that after Jeffrey Epstein was taken away by this first apparent suicide attempt, he found tucked in a graphic novel belonging to Jeffrey Epstein this note. He says, and according to the Department of Justice, chronological events of what happened to the notes that are contained within the Department of Justice Epstein files, searchable by all of us now, he evidently turned over this note to his lawyers, in part because Jeffrey Epstein at the time after this first occurrence said that he did not try to kill himself, that in fact he was attacked by his cellmate. And so the idea was that his cellmate evidently kept this note as some sort of like proof of his innocence. As we know, also according to Mark Epstein, supposedly Jeffrey Epstein said that he was being extorted in jail. I mean, we got to highlight that it's interesting, or question mark, why Jeffrey Epstein, this high-profile figure, as we know, this was their second attempt to obtain a conviction on him, the first time around with his plea deal that he made in 2008. Obviously, very well connected, very powerful, very high profile. Normally, high-profile prisoners are in solitary confinement. They don't allow them to be harmed by the general public, because sometimes the public, by the nature of them being high profile, will try to attack somebody. And this is across the board, a very traditional way of handling high profile inmates. But he wasn't by himself. He was with this man who was a 4-time convicted murderer. So here, this man, Nicholas Taglioni, says that he handed it over to his lawyer. And his lawyer says that he then kept it as part of the files of his client's defense and turned it over to the court. And evidently the court held this note for 7 years. And it really only coming to light because of what he said on the podcast, his former cellmate. And then, of course, the DOJ release really validating the existence of this note, or their appearance of the existence of the note. Interestingly, in this description in the DOJ of what happened, in one of the things that his co-counsel said that he handed it over to the investigator on the team, and that one of them raised concerns regarding the authenticity of the note. That notation is made July 30th, 2019 as part of the DOJ in the actual file. As we know, not that long later, August 10th, 2019, Jeffrey Epstein was found dead in his cell, which again, Mark Epstein has contended that that was not a suicide. We have a new sponsor, Avocado Green Mattress. Their certified organic mattresses are specifically designed to relieve pressure points, support your body the way it needs, and help you actually get the deep restorative sleep you've been missing. Every mattress is made with thoughtfully sourced materials and built with real care, so you get incredible sleep night after night. Their mattresses, like Avocado's best-selling Green Mattress, plus their city bed frame, bring timeless design, quality, and sustainability into the bedroom. Avocado focuses on thoughtful craftsmanship, creating products that feel intentionally made rather than mass-produced, so you can feel good when you buy. When products are made with real certified organic materials, they don't just feel better, they can actually provide better support, breathability, and durability. So they're both good for you and good for the planet. Choosing avocado is one of the most sustainable choices you can make, as they are made with natural, certified organic materials that are responsibly sourced and last longer, which means less waste. Avocado products are made, not manufactured, and thoughtfully crafted with real materials to deliver lasting comfort and support. Go to avocadogreenmattress.com/mistrial to check out their mattress and furniture sale. That's avocadogreenmattress.com/mistrial. avocadogreenmattress.com/mistrial. So back to the note. The note says it is a handwritten note. The one that was released to the public is a handwritten note. It says, "They investigated me for a month, found nothing," all caps, and then 3 exclamation points. "It is a treat to be able to choose one's time to say goodbye. What you want me to do, bust out crying, 2 exclamation points. No fun, all caps, plus underlined, and then all caps, not worth it, exclamation point, exclamation point." And the New York Times makes a point of saying that the phrase "no fun," as well as the phrase "bust out crying," was used by Epstein in his emails. But a lot of people are also noting about how that style is similar to Trump, actually. How much Trump likes to mix in all caps phrases in his X, or now Truth Social, posts. How often Trump likes to use several exclamation points in a row. Very similar, actually, to Trump's style. I mean, the problem is the complete lack of honesty, the complete lack of transparency, the complete lack of releasing of evidence is what has led people to question whether or not Trump and Bill Barr, who was the attorney general at the time, have something to do with the cover-up or whatever of Jeffrey Epstein. And this is how you get to a point where even the House Oversight Committee, which is now left to try to investigate the cover-up and not able to even properly interview the witnesses. I mean, Howard Lutnick was only on a transcribed interview. We won't even get video of him. And he wasn't even under oath. Congressman Yanzari calls him a pathological liar because of his lies. And he wasn't even under oath. This is even the best of the fact finding right now is not very good. So if Trump doesn't like the fact that people are questioning whether or not he, or maybe Steve Bannon, who sure like to use several types of question marks in a row when he writes to Jeffrey Epstein, or who knows who else wrote this, it's because of the lack of information. This is how theories go. And I certainly don't know what happened to Jeffrey Epstein. Mark Epstein certainly feels like he doesn't know what happened to his brother. And when you have the Department of Justice now being investigated separately by two different watchdog government agencies because of the fact that they have withheld files, redacted the information they shouldn't have, and unredacted information they should have redacted. This is how you lead to this point, that a judge saying he had this note for 7 years, we are questioning the authenticity of this note. And again, the styling, if this was indeed Jeffrey Epstein, he and Trump sure had more in common in their friendship. And part of it is their writing styles, because Trump also uses the phrase no fun. You can find that in a few of his ex-posts around that time, talking about, what he's doing as president. He uses that phrase, no fun. So if the New York Times saying Jeffrey Epstein uses that, well, so did Trump. Is it just because they're friends and they had language in common? Who knows? At the end of the day, the New York Times says that they cannot authenticate this note. Somebody surely can authenticate this note, and somebody needs to do their job to authenticate it and get to the bottom of this for all the victims to get justice, and frankly, to prevent anybody from doing this right now if any heir apparent to this enterprise is still operating, because we haven't even found out who all the co-conspirators are, and get justice for the victims. But we are following this story closely. Be sure to subscribe to the MeidasTouch network if you haven't already, and follow the Mistrial podcast on audio, wherever you listen to podcasts. And if you haven't checked out the Mistrial sponsors, be sure to do so. Their description is in the Mistrial videos. So grateful for their sponsorship in this moment, because they do not censor what I have to say.
Want to stay plugged in? Become a subscriber to our Substack at MeidasPlus.com. You'll get daily recaps from Ron Filipkowski, ad-free episodes of our podcast, and more exclusive content only available at MeidasPlus.com.